I was saying that I think we've got one of the strongest personalities in the intelligent community movement coming up. But to get a sense, of a community, again, I always approach it, maybe it's because I was an English major in college, from the perspective of stories, from sort of the poetry of a place. And Quebec City is an incredibly creative place, and I want to talk about that as we go forward. And I think that creativity is at the heart of some of the majority, I would say, of the economic and social engines that run this rather unique place by North American standards. One story in particular, though, really struck me, is a young man named Steve Couture, who runs Canada's largest video game and digital media company called Freema. He's now located there, downtown, in a building where, among other things, his parents met originally. And the building had actually closed, it had boarded up, there was no economic activity. Steve, I think, had left Quebec City for a time, but he came back, and he started Freema, this company. It's an enormous company. I think it's the largest of its kind, as I said. Employs 350 people. And he said, I did it because, A, there was that emotional attachment. It was kind of, sort of a rounding of the circle. And he said, but I also wanted to build and attract people from an industry that I love here. So that tells you about the passion that the creative class, merging with, of course, the business class, have for that place. And, he's managed to do that. And he's now thinking small. He says, my goal next is to be the next Warner Brothers. So that's the kind of ambition that I found there. Obviously, they have major artists as well, like Robert Lepage, who many of you New York City opera fans or Metropolitan Opera fans know is the group that built that 45-ton set, that amazing technology-driven set that is used in Wagner's The Ring Cycle, which just completed a run to worldwide acclaim. And all of that stuff takes place in Quebec, and so there were dozens and dozens of places like that. So when we talk about culture as an asset, and we talk about it increasingly, and we've heard a lot about it over the last day and a half, I think Quebec City articulates that. And that's one of the things I would really like us to take a look at when I'm sitting down with the mayor. But before we do that, they've also brought along a video. So Randy, if we can bring the lights down a little bit, we'll find out a little bit about Quebec City, and then we'll have a chat with the mayor.
I really love my city. The economy is booming, and the quality of life is second to none. To me, Quebec is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, if not the most beautiful. A blend of history and modernity, snow and fire, culture and nature, emotion and feelings. It's a city of contrast, where every stroll leads to new discoveries. So why not come and see for yourself? Vibrant, warm, and truly one of a kind. Quebec City is my city, and I'm proud to say so. It's a great place to live, work, grow up, innovate, and have fun. Come share my pride and help build the future with me. Experience the magic of a city that is constantly reinventing itself. Experience Quebec City.
Bonjour, welcome. Welcome. You've been very busy. You've been meeting with Mayor Bloomberg and talking as well. So
yeah, I met him for the first time this morning. We've been invited to a meeting about corruption, which is a very important meeting.
Yes, which New York knows something about.
Well, he told me that there was nothing here about that. So.
Okay. Well, we know there's not much in Quebec City, if any at all. By the way, I'm a little taller than he is, right?
Excuse me?
I'm a little taller than the mayor.
Are you? Are you?
I am, right?
It's quite rare, right?
I talked a lot about the creative class, but I've been getting a lot of emails from people because they know that you're going to be here. They know you're a top 7 city, and they wanted to know because they've been reading about disturbances, the riots up there related to education, which of course is an important area when you talk about intelligent communities. Do you want to take just a couple of minutes and let us know what is actually going on in Quebec City?
Yeah, just let's start with the facts. In its last budget, the provincial government decided to increase the school's fees, okay? And then some student organization decided not to agree with that. And they didn't want to see any school's fees increasing. And another part of the student organization decided that, well, now we're going to cancel every school's fees. So we would go to school, to college, and university for free. And so they're fighting with the government now since last March, am I right? Mm-hmm. And then, but I would say that my own analysis on that would be that it's probably the tale of Occupy Wall Street, occupies this and that. I would say that, and sometimes I agree with them, they're protesting against what we would call globalization. And I would understand them for some part of it. Yeah. And now the alibi is English? Mm-hmm. The alibi would be, those schools fees, but, it's the same thing. They have the same spirit of those people that did occupy Quebec, that did occupy Montreal and Wall Street here. So this is a deep protest, deep bad feeling about globalization. Yeah. So it takes that color now in the province of Quebec, but okay. This is the way I see it.
Yeah. I suspect you're right. Well, let's talk about that as we move into a description of Quebec City, because obviously globalization is here to stay. Yeah. And yet the need for people to preserve their cultures within this global change.
And we're French, eh?
Exactly. Yes, I've noticed. It creates tension. Maybe in some ways Quebec City thinks about this differently because you have sort of that unique positioning in North America. You are French. You do speak a language that's different than most of the continent. More beautiful, but different. What I've noticed, though, is that the culture is different there, and you've taken the unique elements of the culture, and creativity seems to, as I said, to be at the heart of it, and tried to build an economic engine around it. Obviously, Quebec City wasn't always experiencing, what is it, 4.6% unemployment. I mean, there were times before your administration when the place was struggling. But you seem to have reactivated it with culture, as I said, as the engine. Is that what is bringing about the transformation in your view? Yeah,
I would say, first of all, we're kind of strange people. We have to have brains. I would say that I feel very comfortable on the Champs-Élysées in Paris to have a glass of red wine, and I will have the same feeling in New York City in an Irish pub. See, we have the same feeling. So, and also. Where I have to say that we're different because we have a different language, and but the city changed because the base of our economy was based on power. I would say government, on the government business, and as you all know, and it's almost a worldwide reflex. Government just decided to cut in their budget, and then they would cut in their employees. And so the first impact was on Quebec City. And so we woke up and say, well, we're going to be in deep troubles very soon. So we were just wondering, what should we do? How could we diversify our economy? And the question was, you cannot diversify your economy like that. You have to do it from your grassroots. And as a government city, we had a lot of labs. Okay, those guys were searching, but not finding a lot of things. And we were just wondering, how could we make some money out of those labs? And this is where we decided to build a plan to make those labs economically, try to have an added value from those labs. And so we had new capital venture has been created. We had a plan and everything, so Carl could follow on that.
Well, if I may, as I was, the key thing is how can we use the assets that we had to transform the economy from, as Mr. Mayor was saying, from a civil servant to being able to live in the 21st century and being able to get the assets that we had. So we had some of the research centers like INO, which was our National Institute of Optics, which over the period of about 20 years has created over 20 companies, so SMEs that actually came out of their labs and things like that. So those are some of the examples that we've been able to build on. And as you said, the culture has also played a role in terms of creativity. I was just looking at the video, and when you see the Cirque du Soleil, well, it's based in Montreal, but their first actually presentation and the first chance that they had was actually in Quebec City in '84. So that's where they all started, and actually that was part of what we call creativity as well.
Sure.
And we think culture is a good business also. We just not invest in culture for fun. Yeah. We just want to make some money with that also.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And again, culture defined in a lot of different ways, right? I mean, my parents went to Quebec on their honeymoon, 400 years ago or whenever they got married, when you were first founded or something. But they knew that place as a romantic place. But also the culture now of the video games industry. I mentioned Frima, Steve Couture's company. You've got Labeaume. You've got the largest, I think, outdoor architectural project ever, the Mills project. It was
largest screen
ever. Yeah. I mean, they showed the history of Quebec on, I don't know how big that mill was.
700 to 800 meters screen.
What was that?
700 meters screen, yeah.
It's a remarkable project. You can see it on the internet and so forth. But again, these things are driving the economy. How do you when you mobilize culture for economic purposes, how do you look at it as the mayor? When you talk to people like Carl and your 25 key people, how do you direct them? Because it's an asset.
Yeah, I would say that before we had artists and now we have cultural entrepreneurs. This is a big difference. You see, video game is for fun. But when you have 2,000 of those kids in the same sector in downtown, that means it's a business. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's still culture, but it's business. Robert Lepage, that always work in permanent as a permanent at the Met. This guy is himself a business, and he would say so also. when you know,
He's a factory. I mean, I toured.
He's a factory. He has a, he has all me.
Like Warhol. Andy Warhol used to have something like that.
And we're going to build a new theater just for him soon. Okay, we have the money. No, we're going to rebuild a second theater for him. When you have a Cirque du Soleil just been born in Quebec City, I would say this is a huge company now. So, and now we're investing on what we call techno-cultural, okay? Culture and technology. And the fit is great. You know, we're creating new culture with techno.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what Robert is doing, and the SEC also.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, you need an infrastructure for that. You know, Norm Jackness was talking about that this morning in our Cisco keynote. We talk about the revolutionary community. I was speaking with, well, there's signs there when I was there. And I would say in French, but I would embarrass everyone, including myself. But it basically said, they had these billboards that said, Quebec is faster than Toronto. Quebec is faster than New York. And I know from yesterday's discussion, we weren't talking about sexually.
Sorry about that, eh?
Yeah. But what it meant...
But we're vain also, eh?
That's right. But what you were referring to is, of course, Bell's new high-speed internet. And they chose to go to Quebec, and I asked the people at Bell why, and he said because they're open to it. This is a great culture. They've got low unemployment. They consume this stuff. You've got the techno culture. That's a big deal to have that infrastructure. How did you manage to get that done there?
Cal?
Cal.
He's a technical guy. I'm just the mayor. Eh?
No, but
and I'm a sociologist, so.
Is that right? You're a sociologist?
Yeah. Well, I think that, you know, when we had the discussion during your visit and getting Bell in the room was actually showing the opportunity and the willingness of not only the community but also the business community and the family to be the first to be able to get the fiber to the home. And at the end of the day, we'll have the first and the largest fiber to the home in Canada. It's going to be an investment of roughly $240 million that Bell has begun bringing into Quebec City. And they actually released some of the numbers, and they actually are very pleased because they're reaching even more people that they had expected. The conversion is higher than expected.
Yeah, 60%.
So the people are open to receiving new technology and adapting it and embracing it as part of the way forward.
Yeah, yeah.
And you see, we have the second lowest unemployment rate of the country since in the last 3 years. So, yeah. I mean, the money is there and people's working, so they're ready to buy. Yeah.
Right. Now, the unemployment rate, you know, that's because of the homegrown industries, because of what you've done, or I mean, is there help coming from the federal government? Diversification.
Yeah. You know, in the old days, we would go through economic storm with no problem because the government was there. So, but the end of that would come soon in the last 20 years. So it's tough to succeed in a plan to diversify your economy, but we've been lucky. We did succeed with that. So this is why we went through the last recession with no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I may, if I may, I think like anything else, you know, if you have a plan, you have to implement, and you have to focus and make sure that you're implementing the plan. We, as any other places, have seen many plans, and if the plans are not implemented and they're not follow up and monitor and change, if you're not taking the right direction, well, you know, you're probably putting yourself more to failure than to success.
Yeah.
And in that plan, we were not planning to make money in the next 5 years. See, we would know that we would make money, let's say, in 10, 15 years. So you have to keep on your plan, to be tough, and to invest for the future. And this is tough with politicians because they would like to see the added value 2 years after. But we stuck on the plan. And finally, we made it. Yeah. 15, 20 years after. So there was some people that had vision in 20 years ago, so they were good, and we just follow with them.
Yeah, and that diversification plan included, of course, your arts community trying to develop that video games cluster, but also photonics.
Yes.
I was out at your technology park as well, and you've got some pretty significant photonics companies. How does that connect to the Laval University? Because they seem to be a significant technology transfer sector. Do you actively have a relationship with them, or is there a
Or
triple
like
helix?
that. I mean, I would say that the president of a university and the mayor of our kind of city has to be together. That's it. I mean, it's the only way to see it. And I always say that Laval University is the most important economic development body in the city. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So some businessmen in Quebec City don't agree with me. You would like to be the biggest, but you know, this is a university. So the mayor has to stick with the president and they have to work together. If you think you're going to succeed in the future, it goes through university, through education.
Yeah. Carl, tell us a little bit about some of Laval's programs, because
Well,
I was amazed at their own diversification.
Well, there's a few things. So I'm just going through and making sure I'm not going to say anything out of sight. But
Well, just say it in French if you think.
Okay. No, but the first thing I was going back is that in 2009, actually, Laval got the first round supercomputer in the world. And that was actually part of, you know, what they were trying to do to diversify. And if you look at it, like almost 4 years later, 4 years later, they have about 300 academic researchers group, not only from Quebec, but from around the country, that are working with them with this supercomputer. They call it the Colosse. So Colossus would be the appropriate English word. But that's part of the partnership, the collaboration. And also, as we were saying in optics, photonics, and what you saw during your visit, at the end of the day, it's the same thing. You know, you cannot be good at everything. You have to pick some subsectors that you think you can compete locally, nationally, and internationally. And that's the same thing at Laval. You know, they've been able to attract in optics and photonics leaders from around the world. They've been able, through some different programs that the province or the Canadian government has been providing, to attract some of those people to Quebec. And always in the same view of a global view and plan, is that we decided that there was 6 key sectors that we're going to focus on, and we're going to do everything to support the growth of those sectors as a region.
Do you remember the sectors? Can you name
them?
Yeah,
well, applied technology would include, you know, optics, geospatial, IT, gaming. That's the big umbrella of all of that. The second one, as I say, I don't think there's no city around the world that has not picked life science. So we have it as well, but a very clear focus on vaccine, diagnostics, and infectious disease.
You've got SmithKline there.
Yes, we've got GlaxoSmithKline. We've been able to attract Bacon Dickinson when everyone is going to Asia, that decided to open an R&D facility and a manufacturing site in Quebec. It's overall about close to $1 billion investment, $800 and some million that they brought into the region. The third one is food, which is a big one. But you know, when you're into food, you go from small producers of cheese to the guys that are producing cereal, so you have to find common grounds. The other key one is insurance. A lot of people don't know, but Quebec City is has the second highest number of head office of insurance companies in the country, behind Toronto. Mm-hmm. So that's the other one. We're actually focusing not really on clean tech, but what we call intelligent green building, because we have some expertise in the field. And another one that was also mentioned by our friends from St. John, everything has to do with tourism and the cruise ship. Right. So Quebec is supporting, and we're playing a key role on attracting and getting more people on the cruise coming to Quebec.
And you stay focused on those 6 points, and the mayor, you know, obviously keeps you moving in that direction. Just to go back to the creative class, if you will, the video games people, because again, I spent some time with them. Dominique Brown. Dominique was at lunch with us as well. They said that they don't have as much trouble anymore getting talent here. That was a big challenge for you guys. It's not 100%, but they said it's getting easier. Is it going to be easier? Because you also told me that you've got about 70,000 jobs to fill over the next couple of years.
That was tough, because it's a French city, and sometimes it's cold. And that was tough at the beginning, but our people were so good that finally, you know, even if it was French, you would see some American to come in Quebec City and have fun to be involved in those companies. Yeah. It makes the difference.
I think it's another one that, you know, our point of view on this is, you know, even for myself, if I was to move from, for example, to New York to Philly, you know, and my wife and my family didn't find a job or things like that, and didn't feel comfortable, well, I probably would try to move back to my hometown, New York. So we're looking at it from that perspective, that everyone that we're bringing to our community has to be able to find a job, their spouses as well, and also helping the kids. So we do tremendous effort. I think it was last week actually that the city was actually welcoming all of the new residents, people coming from outside of the country to the region. It's a reception that's hosted at the city. So we take a lot of focus in trying to, making sure that everyone is welcome, that they feel welcome in the new community. And as I was discussing yesterday, we're actually doing a lot of mission around the world trying to attract people to come and move to Quebec City.
Right.
And also we have a small English community, and those guys would take care of the new people that would come. They would take them over and take care of them and try to make their,
life as easy as possible.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. That means if you don't speak French, it's okay. They'll get you drunk and you'll have a great time, and it's beautiful. The food's good. But you're fair that way. You're the only place I know that has statues for the generals on the winning and losing side in a war. The war that actually transformed the English dominance over North America.
Everybody's happy, so.
Yeah. It's got statues for both of them there. So it's an eminently fair place, right?
Yeah, we're fair play.
Yeah. Dominique Brown, I think it was, also said something, and this was something I was picking up because he stopped telling me about his company very quickly in the conversation. He said, I've got this idea for using outdoor space here. I'm going to crowdsource an outdoor space in a park, a huge part of the city. He said, I'm going to make it like Times Square, except we're not going to have commercials up there from Minolta and all these companies. It's going to be the people's advertising. And he's passionate about that, and I think he's going to do it. But tell us a little bit about that project, because that's a community effort.
Well, I'll just tell you that he came last week to my office and showed me the first results of his what he's building, and as I said, go on, I'm there. It's going to cost millions, but we're going to back him because it's going to be incredible. And we're going to be in contact with the world, and it's going to be in a park. You're going to have screen, and there you're going to, and the artists will create directly on the screen. Can you explain more?
Well, I was just first of all going to make a link to the presentation of this morning about Cisco and trying to, some of the new ways of communication. And I think that people that were there this morning can get a feeling of what, based on the Cisco presentation of hooking up and getting the virtual and getting people in different communities tying in together. So that's part of the purpose, but it's also a way of attracting and getting people, again, going back to culture, getting people the chance to express their own views through a media that's going to be open to everyone to work and play with.
Right, but this is going to be worldwide, right? I mean,
yes.
One of the things we talked to him about is having projections.
It's a huge garden, and then you're going to have big screens.
Big screens.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like Times Square, except there's going to be live activity from artists working in the city and around the world. We're trying to connect our intelligent communities like Eindhoven and those places to have their stuff up there in real time as well. So it's a very exciting idea.
We should start next September to build it, I think.
Yeah, next September.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of your own sort of thinking, as I got invited to speak out at the John Glenn Institute in Ohio later in the year. He, the former astronaut and senator, has an institute that studies innovation and re-energizing politicians. And
tough job.
not
Good luck.
But here,
sorry.
No, but I don't think you're talking about yourself, because, I asked you a couple of times. I said, how can you possibly make these investments like Dominique's and others, art for art's sake and all that? And 3 times I wrote it down. You said to me, because I'm crazy. You say that a lot. What is that? What do you mean though when you say that? Because you're obviously not crazy.
Not that bad, but. Well, the vision is clear. We know where we're going, and when we're going to invest millions in this garden project. We're not going to make money directly in the next 5 years, but it's going to add to the profile of the city. And I have to tell you something. Our main problem is human resources. Okay, our companies have problem to find people. Okay. So as a mayor, I have to do something. I said, you know, the plan is to make the city more attractive. First of all, to keep our kids here in Quebec City and convince them that they could be happy there, and to bring kids in town also from somewhere else. So what do I do? What do we have to do is to make our city attractive. So what is attraction? This is a big question, you know. Could be sports, leisure, high-tech, crazy project like this one in the garden. So we have to make our city different to bring the kids.
Yeah.
And it has to be fun. And you know, those kids, they have new values, you know, that are not the same that I had at their age. You know, what are those new values? They need a nice place to raise a family. This is the first value. Secondly, the other one is to a nice place, to live in a good environment. And then in third, they would like to succeed in their career and make some money. You know, some years ago, that was the first one, you see. And so the big decision we take at the City Hall had to fit with those new values. Yeah. So we're trying to build a city in harmony, in tune with those values. Right. And this is the only way to attract people, I think. Yeah. So, yeah.
Very good. So you're approaching it like an artist yourself, because that's the culture, the techno.
And they're like crazy mayor also.
Well, you're yes, you're nuts, right? That's in a good way. Well, for the Canadians in here, are you ever going to get a hockey team back up there?
Well, the Avenue of the Americas is close to here, eh?
Yeah.
Commissioner Bettman wouldn't like to see me talking about that. Is in Old City. And I like the commissioner. So first of all, well, we're going to build a new hockey building next September, start to build. And I don't know, maybe the Coyotes will be available in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, as I said yesterday,
we never know. And I love Gary Bettman, okay?
You never know. But as I said yesterday, we'll send you the Rangers if you want them. They stink.
Are you sure?
But anyway, a hockey team or not, Quebec City is on the move, and it's a wonderful environment to be in. We think it expresses what is important economically now, which is creativity and culture, because it will drive the innovation and the innovators to come to a place and stay to a place. So I really do. I compliment you on the work that you've done, and of course your team. And it's a pleasure to have you here. And merci beaucoup.
Merci. Merci.
Merci.
Good to see you. Thank you very much. Good to see you again. Thank you. Thanks, Kyle.